1510 WMEX Quincy, Boston, and 101.1 FM W266DQ Quincy.
WMEX Quincy, Boston. Streaming at WMEXBoston.com. And on your smart speaker, just say play WMEX.
The greatest hits of all time are back. This is the all-new WMEX.
WMEX Boston.
Chris Shea's Financial Puzzle Plan is a show dedicated to helping you understand your financial path and the puzzle pieces that build it. Join us each week and every Tuesday night as Chris explores various topics in the financial industry with his guests and your calls at 781-834-9639. Here's your host, Chris Shea of BPS Financial Services.
Thank you, Ben. Happy Tuesday evening, everybody. Hope everybody is having a fantastic holiday season. I am Chris Shea of BPS Financial Services, out of Marshfield, but working wherever you happen to be to give you the help that you potentially need to solve that financial puzzle. I posted on LinkedIn and Facebook today about this and put up our episode from last month where Matt and I chatted about everything about finances, and somebody gave a comment about it and said financial puzzle is a great analogy for it because there's a lot of stuff that's got to fit together, and that's just a great analogy.
And how often does it?
Well, if you do it yourself, it can be a hair-pulling out activity, without a question. And even if you do it as a couple, it can be really challenging. I've worked with a few couples, and they called me in to help them with their money. And what I realized after I started working with them a little bit is I became kind of a referee and almost I don't want to say marriage counselor, but a therapist type person, because they had different views on what should be done. And based upon their background, you know, with family and with where they were in their own personal lives, with, you know, you start off with, in most cases, they're different genders. There are same gender marriages, but, you know, with that comes differences of opinion. And then you've got people that are at different stages in how they grew up in families, right? You've got somebody who's the firstborn, somebody's got 3 siblings, somebody's got they're an only child. Their views of the world are different. And then you take into their socioeconomic upbringing. You know, somebody comes from money, somebody comes from no money, and their views on how to deal with money are going to be different. And it can create a little bit of tension between couples in a lot of cases because their point of view is their point of view, and quite often they're not up to hearing the other person's. And I've found that if you bring a third party in who's not for one person or the other, it can be a very rewarding experience because it takes away the emotion. Right? Because everybody's got emotions around money. And I've talked about this a couple times and we'll continue to bring it up, but the definition of money for people. And everyone's got a different definition. I hear way to buy things. I hear mode of method to keep our society going, the way the economy works. But I view money as the medium by which you purchase your current and future needs, wants, wishes, and desires. And needs are obviously needs, but your wishes, wants, desires, those are all emotional things, right? And as we are now in the holiday season, and if you have any kids or grandkids, you know it's the I want a Christmas present season or a holiday present or whatever, you know, a Hanukkah present. I grew up getting both Hanukkah and Christmas presents, so I was a little bit spoiled the presents for Christmas tended to be a little bit bigger because over the course of 8 days, you can't get a big, huge gift every single day. But that was just kind of the way it was. So, you know, I had my Jewish grandparents gave me stuff on Hanukkah, and then Christmas we all got together and did the Christmas stuff. But there's always the question of I want a present, I want a gift. I was speaking with someone a couple weeks ago, and she was a grandmother with 14 grandkids, ranging in ages from 1 to 2 all the way up to 14. And she was commenting about how her grandchildren were very forthright in what they were asking for. She marveled at the fact that her 13, 14-year-old grandkids were able to ask for $1,000 presents, iPads, phones, game consoles with a bunch of games. She said, I wish I had that kind of moxie when I was a kid. And then we laughed about that a little bit. But then we started to do the math. And if you buy a $1,000 gift for one of the kids, you've got to make it equitable, which means she would have spent $14,000 on Christmas presents for her grandkids. Think about that, right? Like whether you have the means or not is irrelevant. But if you start to add up what you're giving out for gifts, it becomes a really expensive thing. My daughter, she's 13, and I thought I was fairly good with presents, and then she reminded me that she wanted sweatshirts. Well, fortunately for me, I had a budget for my holiday gift giving, and as of the moment, I'm under budget, which is somewhat miraculous, but it's just me and my daughter, so there's not a whole lot of people to buy stuff for. I'm a minimalist. I don't go out and buy a bunch of stuff for myself. I don't have a lot of needs. I find that if I get a shirt, I have a rule where I have to throw away another shirt. So I like all my T-shirts right now. So I'm not going to go out and ask for, get myself some T-shirts. I am looking to get a Bruins sweatshirt because I haven't had one for a while. So I'm going to add a sweatshirt to my repertoire. But for the most part, when I get something, I try and get rid of something else because, again, I think I've mentioned this in the past, but when my mother finally passed away a couple of years ago, we had to clean out our house, and it was 6 30-yard dumpsters of stuff. And that was just the trash. That wasn't even the stuff that I gave to the Salvation Army and donations or sold, because that would have been even more, right? Like we sold the house, the people that were moving in didn't have a master bedroom set. So my parents, they had a king-size bed, a nice sleigh bed frame. They had the drawers and the dressers and the bureaus. Sold that to the people that were moving in. They didn't have a dining room table. We sold them the dining room table. They didn't have a couple of other things, and we just sold it to them very much on the cheap, which was good for them and good for me because that was less stuff that I had to get rid of. Literally the day before we're getting out of the house, I was pulling out her china cabinet thing and putting that on the side and bringing that to the dump in Hanover where she lived and getting rid of it. So it was something where I learned, and I kind of knew it about myself anyhow, that I wasn't a big proponent of having a bunch of stuff. And so that's helped me to minimize my holiday contributions to myself in terms of buying junk or stuff, right? So I think I'm kind of fortunate in that. I'd rather buy experiences, or now my big gift to my cousins and my other family members are things that are consumable. So I've got a couple of female cousins that we spend Christmas and Thanksgiving with. And before my mother passed away, she had brought wine to a bunch of the holiday functions. And my cousins all marveled at how great it was. And my mom laughed and snickered because it was Pinot Grigio, and it was nice, right? But it wound up being the $3 bottle of Pinot Grigio from Whole Foods, right? So for Christmas and now I get all the women cousins, there's 3 of them, a case of the $3 wine per bottle. So they get 12 bottles of wine, and it costs, do the math, $36. And then I got another cousin, he likes Captain Morgan, so I'll go and get a 175 at BJ's or Costco for $20. And consumables, that's my big Christmas present to people. It's something that I know they'll enjoy. I know it's something that they will definitely go through. But it's my way of saying, hey, look, I'm going to give you something that you like. And I try and indicate to people that I don't need stuff, but people like to give stuff. And some of it's lovely, some of it's great. We did get, one of the things I did get, I think last year, was one of those bottle openers, like where you grip the top of the can when it's tight, and it had a picture of me and my daughter on it, which, again, I'll take that. But if it was just a opener for containers, probably not something I'm going to want to get, right? like it's a nice to have, but I don't need that. So it's always interesting around this time of year, figuring out exactly what you want to buy stuff for. So when you do your Christmas holiday shopping, Matt, is there anything in particular that you like to buy your friends, family? I know that sometimes you got to get the kids and significant others what they want, but is there something that you like to particularly get or give that?
So we do a Yankee swap with my family and with my wife's, and I just like to get creative with it, So, if it's something funny some year, or if it's this year it's something a little bit more meaningful that really could fit with any of my brothers or sister-in-laws or my mother, and so it kind of depends on the year. But I got it pretty lucky in the sense that my wife and I, we don't do presents. So our anniversary is on New Year's Eve.
Really?
So we save the presents for then. So we buy for the kids, we buy for nieces and nephews, and my mother's the type of person that doesn't necessarily need anything, so she's always a struggle. I have an aunt that is the same way. She doesn't necessarily need anything, so this challenge is there.
Wine?
They do like wine, and my mother does like Pinot Grigio. She likes the $8 bottle, not the $3. But
Wine of the Month Club.
Yeah, that's not a bad gift at all. But she's very particular on the brand, so it's tough. But yeah, no, I like to find something that somebody would appreciate, as opposed to something that they absolutely need, because, I think a lot of the people in my life, if they absolutely need something, that they're lucky enough they can go purchase it if they need to. So that's kind of the angle I take on it.
Yeah. No, and one of the gifts we got last year, actually, or the year before, I forget which one it was, but I totally forgot what the gift was until my daughter and I started decorating the Christmas tree this past Saturday. We couldn't go and get it in advance of that because she was in bed sick, and I was going to take her out and go Christmas tree shopping in the weather.
Yeah.
But one of our cousins, again, it was a personal thing. It was this big round ornament that was gold, and it had my name written from the outside in. It had my daughter's name written from the outside in. So no matter which one of the 6 or 8, I think it might have been 6, but each one it looked like a snowflake.
Yeah.
But it was written Chris, and it was written Aurora. So I pulled it out and I looked at the thing and I was like, I totally forgot what it was. I go, what are these ornaments? My daughter goes, oh, those are our names. And she's like, I'm like, what? I'm like, oh yeah, there it is. Like as soon as you say it, you see it.
Yeah.
But until you realize, if you don't realize what it is, it just looks like a snowflake.
Yep.
But again, those are, things that we'll keep, and they're small enough where they can fit in my Christmas box, and not clutter up the house when it's not Christmas season. But you bring them out, and every year be like, okay, I remember that we actually have those, and we have to remember that our names are on those. So those are things that have to be more front and center on the tree.
Yep.
Which is always an interesting thing. With you and all your kids, how'd you guys go about the decorating of the Christmas tree this year? Have you done it yet?
We did do it. We did it a few weeks ago. And I actually
Real tree or fake tree?
A real tree.
Okay.
We got it down here at Lambert's in Pembroke, where we get it every year. Try to support local business as much as we can. But this is the first year I wasn't home to decorate it. I had another party I had to go to, and my kid's been antsy for weeks. So, with their sports schedules, it was just trying to find a day to do it, and they did it on a Friday night. We had to wait for my daughter to get out of gymnastics at 7:30. So, they did it all together that night.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, we down in Marshfield, there's a tree in front of the Roach Brothers.
Yep.
And it goes. Actually, I found out it goes to the Boy Scouts.
I found that out this year.
The Girl Scout troop and the Boy Scouts, and it was funny because when we went, my daughter was saying, "Oh, one of my friends said she was going to be there this morning," and we didn't show up until like 1 in the afternoon, 1:30 or whatever, and her friend was still there, and her friend is in the Boy Scout troop, girl. And her dad and the friend was at my daughter's sleepover party for her 13th birthday. And I made them really uncomfortable because I'm an Eagle Scout. So I started talking about scouting, and they were like, okay. Like this guy's talking to us about scouting and camping and all this stuff and merit badges. But I was like, hey, you know what? Now that I know it was scouting, I'm even more willing to buy the tree here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was cheaper than Lambert's down the street.
Yes.
But it was going to a good cause because they get to raise money for their troop. I also found out that one of they got their first Eagle Scout girl recently. Wow. And they've got a bunch of them in the pipeline, I guess, because it takes a couple of years to get an Eagle.
Yeah.
I mean, and then I told the girls that I did the absolute minimum of 21 merit badges to get my Eagle Scout. And I literally handed in 5 minutes before my 18th birthday. So I was I achieved, but barely made it. But I did it.
You got it.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
You don't get an extra Eagle Scout for more, do you?
No, you don't. Just like with the Patriots, you don't lose with more or less, right?
Exactly. Loss is a loss.
Loss is a
win
loss.
is a win.
Win is a win. You don't get bonus points or style points. But yeah, no, it was. But my Eagle Scout project again. Parents from Hanover, grew up in Hanover. I planted 250 seedlings to hopefully one day in the future be put on the side of the road for erosion control. Okay. And I got permission from the town to do it below. There's a water tower down by the Hanover, where the Hanover Mall used to be. Exit 27 now. Down behind where Squires used to be again.
Yep.
Across from Target. And unfortunately, the town didn't communicate everything perfectly with one another. And the year after I did all the planting, they decided to empty the water tower, and all the seedlings got washed away, flooded out.
That's too bad.
It was timing for them to do something, clean out inside or something. I got no idea what it was.
Yeah.
But I came home and I was like, oh, let's go check out the seedlings, and they were all gone, just gone. And I asked around, and we had to take the water out and flood it, and I was like, why did I do all this work?
You did it because it felt good.
It was a pain in the neck. I ain't gonna lie. Like I had to get the 250 seedlings. I had to raise money to buy them. I had to get some of them donated, I guess. And I had to organize my fellow scouts to do the planting. I mean, 250 seedlings?
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot. And then, you got to fertilize them and all that sort of stuff. It wasn't easy, but looking back, I kind of wish I'd done something else. But, only again, though, it was only because of the result, right? Like the project itself, I was like, this is going to be great because if you drive down any of the roads in the South Shore area that don't have a sidewalk, you can see all the erosion that's going on.
Yeah.
Right. So my heart was in the right place. The results were less than stellar. But hey, you do what you can do. So what else is going on with the holiday season? You got was the New Year's wedding your idea or your better half's idea or just what did it come about? I'm always interested.
It was always her dream to get married on New Year's Eve. And then we got engaged and she tried to backtrack a little bit. But no, we just felt it was a good time to do it. I mean, it's a built-in party every year. I mean, we were 27, 28, 29, however old we were, and at that point, no one really wanted to go into Boston anymore, and everyone just kind of was always looking for something to do. So let's just throw a wedding, And fun fact, it was a blizzard. So I spent the afternoon shoveling the driveway.
I was gonna say, did you stay at a hotel in the area, or did you just?
So we got married in Weymouth at Sacred Heart, and the reception was in Foxborough, so we stayed in a hotel out in that area. But yeah, no, it was a ton of snow. The limo did not get to my mother's house in time to pick her and the bridesmaids up. So she had to go to the church in my mom's Volvo with my brother driving. And we all met everyone at the church, and it ended up being a great night. We got some great pictures. The snow let up by the time people were commuting to the reception, so it was fun.
Yeah, no, it's. I always chuckle because when people talk about weddings, everyone wants "quote unquote" the perfect wedding, and I tell people you don't want the wedding to be perfect, and they're like, "Why?" I go, "When the wedding goes off without any problems, do you remember the wedding?" And everyone kind of looks and goes, "No."
Yeah.
And so when me and my ex got married, we got married out in Camarillo, California, which is north of LA on the beautiful spot. We got married at it was outside in August, and it was at a arboretum type thing, outdoor venue with a whole bunch of trees and beautiful garden and picturesque. Well, I spent 5 years living in New Orleans, and we decided our wedding gift we were going to give everybody and make it actually look stunning. We had purple feather boas that we tied to every one of the chairs, and that was our wedding gift.
Oh,
so
nice.
everyone got a purple feather boa.
Okay.
Well, have you ever had 125 purple feather boas in one spot?
No. I'll be honest, I don't even know if I know what they are.
Oh, so when so a feather boa, it's a long. People drape around their necks, and they're little feathers, but the feathers fly out. So we had 125 of them at this beautiful, picturesque place, and it wound up with just purple feathers everywhere. And it was a fun thing because people were pulling the boas, and when you do the limbo, that's what we're using. I had one different color than everybody else. My ex had hers with her own special color. Everyone else had just the plain purple ones, and there were just feathers everywhere. It was a disaster. And I found out afterwards that the location actually wrote into their contract after that, no feather boas.
Makes sense.
because it was
A lot of
such a
cleanup.
disaster to clean up.
Yep.
It was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always tell people you don't want the perfect wedding to go off without any problems because you don't remember those.
Right.
You remember something where something happened. But in any case, let's take a little break here and we'll get back and see if we might actually talk a little bit about mortgages and money.
Love mortgages.
Are you fit to retire? I'm Chris Shea, financial advisor at BPS Financial Services in Marshfield. I work with clients to create a 100-day plan that can help get you started so that you can get the most out of your retirement. You've worked your whole life towards your goal of retirement. Let BPS Financial Services put together a plan that will help you enjoy your retirement. Find out how a 100-day plan tailored to you can help you get started in your retirement at fit2retire.com/Chris-Shea or call 781-733-5996. That's 781-733-5996. And now for my fast red disclosure, as this has been compliance approved.
Chris Shea is a registered representative offering securities and advisory services offered through Cetera Advisor Networks, LLC, member FINRA/SIPC, a broker-dealer and registered investment advisor. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity, located at 752 Ocean Street, Marshfield, Massachusetts, 02050.
Hi, my name is Kyle, and I'm one of the owners of Austin Insurance Agency. Let's be real, your insurance premiums have skyrocketed since the pandemic, and many families are having a hard time finding affordable coverage. We have access to over 50 insurance carriers at our 2 convenient locations. One's in Hingham near Derby Street Shopping Mall, and another is in Whitman on Route 18. We are a third-generation insurance agency, and since 1964, we have helped thousands of families find an affordable solution. It costs you nothing for us to review your policy, but it might if you don't. Austin Insurance Agency. Our family protecting yours. Contact us at 781-447-5561. Also online at austininsurance.com.
Whether you're a first-time home buyer or looking to refinance, don't waste time sifting through countless mortgage options. At MBA Mortgage, our licensed loan officers do the work for you. We shop the best rates from top lenders and tailor a mortgage solution just for you. Trust the experts at MBA Mortgage and call Matt Scott at 781-849-1118 or visit our website at www.mbamortgageteam.com. Your home, your future, your choice. MBA Mortgage has mastered the business of mortgages. And don't forget to check me out on Tuesdays during Chris Shea's Financial Puzzle Plan at 6 o'clock on WMEX.
Hey, there he is, Matt Scott, talking about WMEX, 1510 a.m. Give us a call if you get a chance. What's that phone number again, Ben?
781-834-9639. And folks can also email us at wmexboston@gmail.com.
That's why we have him here, because there are times when I forget my piece of paper with all that written down. And tonight was one of them, because my daughter and I were scarfing down food because I wasn't supposed to have her tonight, but her mom was sick. So I get a pleasure of having her for an extra day. And it was a full day because with that wonderful storm yesterday, Marshfield schools were all closed today.
Yep.
So hopefully if you're out there and you got grandkids or kids that got to play legal hooky today, they enjoyed the day. I know mine enjoyed playing Roblox on our iPad with her friends. They couldn't quite get together and figure something out because she's only 13 and making plans is still a challenge.
Yes.
And
I know that all too well.
I unfortunately had work to do, including talking a little bit about this. But so it's the end of the year and people are starting to talk about what they're going to do next year, and buying homes is always something that people talk about. I know that I've followed you a little bit on online, Matt, with Facebook and LinkedIn, and I saw you post something last week about a rate change. What's going on with that?
Well, so the Fed came out and they didn't do anything, which was good, right? A little bit of me thought, if they increased the rate a little bit more, that helps fight inflation, and that should bring mortgage rates down, which is in theory how it should work. But I think the news of them doing nothing actually helped us out quite a bit. We saw one of
Doing
the
nothing is a good thing.
in this case, yeah. I mean, we saw probably the biggest drop in mortgage rates we've seen all year. We saw rates above 7 drop to the mid 6s. Typically if you see a rate drop an eighth or 1/4% over the course of a week or two, that's not that alarming and not that surprising. But 5/8 to 3/4%, that's significant, and that pretty much happened overnight. So it was good to see. And I think it gave people a little jolt. A little confidence going into next year in the spring market, hopefully, to kind of get back out there and start looking.
So people hear that, it dropped by 1/2, 5/8, 3/4, but that's kind of an ambiguous thing. Mm-hmm. What would that actually mean for like someone in terms of purchasing power, right? Because that's actually what it really comes down to. Like the rate is kind of, for me, it is what it is, but the impact that it has on your ability to allocate funds towards a home, which is where you're going to hopefully live, unless you're buying an investment property, which is an entirely different ball of wax. Let's say somebody's looking to buy their home. What does that do for the purchasing power of the individual when they go from 7 to 6 1/4?
I mean, it definitely has a huge impact. I think I mentioned last month that, a 1/4% drop or even a 1/2%, 10 years ago when prices were at $500,000-$600,000, it's a significant drop in payment, maybe $100-$200 a month, depending. But right now, where prices are so high, 1/2% can be very significant. In some cases, it could drop somebody $300-$400 a month. And that could really help them out in increasing their pre-approval amount, maybe up another, 25, 50 grand, depending on, where they're looking. So it could have a significant impact on what they're trying to do.
And as far as, and then that gets to the financial puzzle that this whole idea of the show is about. You got $300-$400 a month to spend on something other than your house. Mm-hmm. And I know that I was talking to somebody about this recently, and they were talking about I know somebody today on my post about the show was like, oh yeah, there's a big thing on Twitter or X or whatever the heck it's called now about should you rent or should you buy, and what the difference is, and why you should buy versus why you should rent. And for me, there's no right or wrong answer.
I would agree with that.
It depends.
Even though I think buying is the right answer. And not in cash.
Right. But you've got to look at the entirety of what the purchase entails, right? And when I say that to people, they kind of look at me sideways and like, well, the house costs, I'm just going to throw out a number, $700,000. I'm like, well, that's what the house costs, $700,000. I got my mortgage, 6 1/4, 6%, whatever the mortgage is right now. So I'm going to pay a little bit more than the $700,000. Like, well, you can pay a lot more, but and then I'm like, okay, so what else are you going to spend in the house? And they kind of look at me and go, what do you mean? I go, okay, so you're going to buy the house as is and not make any changes ever? And they go, no. I say, okay, so have you factored the cost of a new kitchen that you want to put in there, potentially in that? And they go, no. Okay, do you know how much a new kitchen costs? And they kind of look and go, $20,000? I'm like, no. Like $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 for a kitchen. A bathroom alone is $15,000, $20,000, right? Like so, when you start to look at the cost of a house, yes, there's a purchasing price, which buys you the land and whatever structure's in place now, but you're probably going to outlay money to do repairs. You're going to have to do maintenance on it. There's a lot of costs that come and are associated with being a homeowner that people sometimes don't necessarily think about.
Yeah, and in that scenario, that's where I think having a mortgage broker is pretty valuable. Let's say rates drop and we're able to get you into a house for, $300-400 a month cheaper. Let's look at your down payment. Maybe if you were comfortable with that payment before the rate drop, maybe we put less money down and we keep a little bit more in your pocket so that you have more money up front to do these repairs as opposed to saving that $300 or $400 per month, with the goal of maybe doing it in 3 or 4 years. So the analysis we always do will always discuss multiple options. We're never going to look at it one way and just say, hey, great, you can put the same, $50,000 down and drop your payment by this. We're going to look at that. We're going to compare it to putting down, say, $30,000 at that interest rate. Let's look at the payment. Because if there's a way to be comfortable with the payment, keep some money for reserves, that's definitely something you should look at. And I think when we do see rate drops like this, that opens up more conversation for that analysis and that customization of the mortgage, to what your needs are.
Yeah, and I think you said a big piece of that is that cushion of cash in your pocket.
Yep. Because a lot of people overextend, and
no. More than a lot. Most people overextend.
Well, what we see all the time is, you pre-approve someone for a number, and they're right up against the threshold, and you try to talk to them and say, I'm uncomfortable for you, because
that's a scary thing to hear.
Right, because you know how tight it can be. Now, unless there's a compensating factor, maybe there's a spouse that isn't on the mortgage that's working, so there's additional income there. But we see a lot of times where people just want to get into that bigger, better house at all cost.
Literally all cost.
Yeah, and they don't have that reserve money, and having that reserve is so important these days because you just never know if something's going to break. You never know if you're going to have to do repairs. A lot of people don't even factor in what their utility is going to be. You have no idea how much the cable bill is going to be or the the heat or the electric.
Well, the cable bill you can kind of predict.
You can gauge it.
The heat and electricity are different stories.
Right. So you're always going to be into it for more than you expect once you get in. And in my experience, most people always figure it out, and that's the beauty of it. I know that was me. Every time I bought a new house, I was a nervous wreck going into the next one, like I couldn't afford it, and you figure it out. You make some adjustments, but you should have some money left over. You never want to dump every cent you have into it, because I just think you're setting yourself up for failure. You're putting yourself in a tough spot right out the gate, and that's scary.
No, and I will say this as the financial advisor: if you don't have, after you're done signing the mortgage and the P&S and all that stuff around buying the house, if you don't have at least $10,000 in the bank afterwards, you're in trouble, and somebody didn't do a good job educating you on the reality of the purchase that you just made.
Right.
Because, and I tell people, 3 to 6 months of cash reserves, that's in addition to what your down payment is in your house when you talk about cash. I was talking to somebody recently, and they were like, oh yeah, I want to get my down payment on my house. It's my goal. And I said, okay, great. Your monthly expenses right now are X. You've got, you're starting to get towards your down payment number. You need 3 months of X, 3X, plus whatever your down payment is. And they went, what? I said, yeah, like, what happens if, I don't know, and this happened to me, right? I was fortunate I got a better job afterwards, but I bought a home in Duxbury. We moved from California, and 6 months later, they terminated my position, and I was gainfully unemployed.
Yep.
And the sole breadwinner for the family. And talk about scary. I was like, okay, great. And it looks like good thing we had a lot of, credit card availability.
Yep.
Because bills are going on the credit card. 2 months later, they gave me a little bit of a buyout, so it wasn't that critical. But and then 2 months later, I had a job, a better job, higher paying job. But still, it was
It's a stressful 2 months.
holy good God.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my parents were alive, so I would have been able to, put my tail between my legs and ask for assistance. But I was 40-something years old, and you don't want to do that when you're in your 40s, or really any age, particularly us men. Mm-hmm. We have a, me provide type thing that happens. I know, actually, it was funny because we talk about those bills that come up, right? So when we bought our house, there was this wonderful little side room that when we moved in, had a carpet, and my wife at the time, we went in there, we started cleaning up to just clean it, and all of a sudden there had been cats living in the home beforehand. My ex was very, very, very allergic to cats. We thought we got rid of it all. As soon as we started vacuuming the rug, all the dander came up, and she couldn't breathe. So I went and just ripped out the carpet. And below that was just basic floorboards, nothing. But we couldn't have the dander in the house because she couldn't breathe. Putting the floor in was going to be a couple $1,000s. And we had some other things that we were doing, so it didn't get done. And it was like 4 or 5 months later. It was after the summertime. And it still wasn't done. Because it was going to cost like $2 or $3 grand. And I was like, look, we're done all the other work on the outside. This is nice. We don't need this room. And I had I'm big, strong guy. We'll figure it out later. And then I went to New York for one of my work trips with the company I was working with. And I went to a bar, and I happened to sit next to this guy, and he told me a really interesting story about parents and accepting their gifts, right? Because he actually was the producer for the Conan O'Brien show. Was it Conan O'Brien, or what's the guy in New York? Because Conan's in L.A.
Leno or Letterman?
No, it was after that. It was like 2015 or one of the talk shows at night that everyone knows about.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there talking, and he's got like a 20-something-year-old kid, and they're New York Mets fans, so I didn't hold that against them too badly. But the kid wound up getting 2 tickets to a baseball playing game for the playoffs, and the son asked the dad to go. And they're like $200 a pop, and the kid showed up to take his dad to the game, and he's like, "Okay, Dad, let's go." And Dad's like, "I'm paying for the tickets," and the kid was like, "No, I got to go." Son, you bought the tickets. You could have invited anybody. You invited me. It's my money. Let me be happy spending money on you. And the message I got from that was, don't let your ego get in the way of your parents being happy, because you don't know how long they're going to be around. That weekend, came back from that trip, like on Thursday. I called my mom and said, "So, do you want to buy that floor for me?" And within 2 weeks, the floor was in.
Yeah.
But I let go of my ego and was like, okay, you know what? $2,000. My mom wants to do this for me. Christmas, birthday, whatever you want to call it. Gift to the house, housewarming, whatever it is. Thank you. We'll take the money. But it took someone else smacking me in the head to figure out that my ego wasn't as important as us having a wonderful hardwood floor so my daughter could enjoy that room in the wintertime, as opposed to, not having a couple 100 square foot room. But again, it was an unexpected thing when we bought the house.
Yep.
We didn't think we were going to be ripping out the carpet within literally 24 hours of the house being bought.
Yeah. Something's always going to come up. It always is. Even when you don't expect it. My brother just had a pipe burst the other day. Certainly wasn't expecting that. All because the wind blew the trampoline one way and, something happened and something got on and he had to pull out the hose. But that's an added expense. It's something he's going to come up with the money for now.
I had a client call me up today. They had a flood in their basement. And first time ever, and apparently there was like a little crack and water came down the right way and they're not in a flood area, so they didn't have flood insurance. And now they've got to figure out how to get rid of it. And, they mentioned a company that I was like, we probably don't want to call them because they're really expensive. And I've got to actually try and figure out somebody else to help them out that does the water removal in the basement. Do you know anybody, by the way? Metro West.
I do not.
But if there's somebody out there listening that does that, let me know because I've got somebody that needs some help. But you never know what's going to pop up, right? And again, it's December 19th, and this is not when they wanted to be worried about doing this fix in their basement.
Right.
Right. And it just, stuff happens. You own a home. You can't call the landlord because the landlord's you.
Yep. Yeah, so to get back to the original point, is it better to own or rent? I mean, it depends on every situation, How long are you going to be there? What are your goals for the future? The great thing about real estate is the ability to leverage your money, right? And build wealth. You can take, $10,000, $15,000 down payment and turn it into $100,000 worth of equity. And to save that $100,000 would take you, X amount of years that you may not be planning for. So, I mean, that's the upside of owning. The downside is the stuff we're talking about, not being financially ready, and maybe rushing into it too quickly. We talk to a lot of clients where we'll flat out tell them we don't think they're ready. It's not what they want to hear, but again, our job isn't to sell anyone anything. It's to guide them, give them an analysis, give them some information so that they can make an educational decision or educated decision, And, I think those clients end up coming back more and more, and, they end up appreciating some of that advice up front.
Yeah. Because one of the worst things you can do is getting over your head.
Absolutely.
And then you're stuck going, okay, we bought this, again, $600,000, $700,000 house, and we're eating ramen noodles every night.
Right.
Like, did you really, is that really the life you want to live? Or would you have been better off buying a little bit less expensive home?
Right.
And maybe eating Wendy's instead.
Well, and what we see now is the idea of that starter home is gone. It seems like you got a lot of people moving out of the city. They want the mansion right away. I think the ability to leverage your money from a starter home into that home eventually is very important. And I did it. I bought a house in Weymouth back in probably 2012. Put as little down as I could with a little luck from the market appreciating. I was able to turn that into more money. I was able to buy my house in Marshfield. It's using the stepping stones to get to where you want to go. And if you have the ability to do it right away, great. That's awesome. We'll work with that too. But, I think people should have a little bit more patience in general in terms of their first purchase, because you don't know what to expect. get in, get your feet wet, kind of see how it goes, and then you learn a lot from owning your first home.
Absolutely.
You learn so much.
You learn how much you didn't actually know.
Right, because you don't know what you don't know, right? So that would be my advice for anyone, looking to buy their first home and not really sure what to do. We have renovation loans, so I mean, you can find that fixer-upper, and, we can put you into a renovation loan, build some equity right away. Again, leverage your money, leverage the bank's money, and have a plan, have a 5-10 year plan on what you want to do.
I think the biggest word that you said in all that was plan.
Yep.
Right? If you're just kind of making it up as you go along, that works really well if you're Indiana Jones. But it doesn't work so well in real life.
Right.
I mean, they've got a script. They've already written the movie. They know how it's going to end. They've factored in everything. Real life, it's not as neat and clean as that. It's messy. Things go awry. Pipes burst. Water. I was, again, following somebody online, and they're an insurance agent. And in the storm that happened yesterday, tree fell over, went through the roof of their house.
Yep.
They're now not just the insurance agent, but they're now their own client. And they're dealing with the same insurance company that we've all got to deal with.
Yep.
And, we'll talk to Kyle next week, but insurance is not inexpensive. And, that's part of the financial puzzle. I was talking to someone today about it as well, or yesterday. I talked to a lot of people recently about stuff. And the reality of why the insurance rates have gone up is because people are making claims about small little things.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a lot of people making small claims, and the insurance companies, they have to have a profit. Right? So the more claims you make, the more everyone's rates go up.
Yep.
It's a socialist type endeavor, right? Because everyone puts in a pool of money and then it gets dispersed as needed. And then there's profits and there's people that you got to pay for the company. So yes, your insurance goes up. It's because we're all making claims on it. It's not because they're making additional profits. They've got profit numbers to hit, and you just got to pay for it.
Right.
But again, that's part of the financial puzzle, and it's also what's got to be factored into the mortgage that you take on the house affordability, right? Because you do have that insurance cost to cover your house.
Yep.
And again, there's more of an insurance thing, but you got to have that umbrella insurance, I think, is a key thing, because you're putting all this money into this piece of property. Protect it.
Right. Right.
Make sure that you actually do have a home that even if a tree falls into it, you can fix it back up, right? Because and again, getting a mortgage is not an easy thing.
It can be difficult. Every scenario is a little different.
A little bit of paperwork?
Just a bit. I mean, it's not as terrifying as people think it may be. The biggest obstacle is getting into underwriting, and you have very savvy people who move money around, right? And in our world, moving money around is just going to create more work, for an underwriter, because you have to paper trail everything. So, you get people that are very successful. They have multiple revenue streams. They move money from account to account. Every time that moves, we're going to require more paperwork. And it's not, a lot of people think that banks are out to deny you. They're not, right? Because a lot of these lenders don't make any money unless they close your loan.
They make no money unless
they make no money, so
their business is getting money from people and paying them like 3% and then getting a mortgage at 6%.
Right.
And they make money on the spread.
Yep.
That's literally their business.
100%. So I tell everybody that when they go into underwriting, if you're going to do anything, just talk to us first. because whatever you do, if you move money from account A to account B, we need to make sure that we can document that.
Yeah.
Cash is not king. I think I said that last month. We've had people stick 20 grand into the bank, a week before closing, and they can't document it because it was under the mattress. This is all stuff that creates the paperwork.
Yeah.
So I mean, a lot of times when we have clients where very simplistic situations, maybe their credit's a little banged up, or maybe they don't make as much, but it's a very simple loan because they go to work here, they put their money here, and that's what we're looking at, And there's nothing wrong with either side of it, right? It just depends on the frustration level of a lot of people once they're in underwriting. Because I tell everyone, conditions breed conditions, right? So an underwriter's job is to dig through the financials, and if they see something, they're going to ask about it, which creates more paperwork, right? Again, it's not that they want to deny you. Nobody wants your loan to fail.
Right.
But they have to do their due diligence, and even in the pre-qualification stage, we're not going to catch everything. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of guidelines. You'd have to be a savant to know every one of them, right? I mean, you can recognize a few because you've run into them before, but these underwriters do know the majority of them. So it's it can be a lot of paperwork, but if you listen to your loan officer is going to guide you in the right direction, right? And they're going to do it the right way. So my advice to anybody would be just, if you're frustrated, take a few minutes to compose yourself, make the phone call to your loan officer, let them tell you what the next step should be, because they will know exactly what the underwriter wants to look for.
Yep.
Provide only what you need to, right? Don't provide extra because you think it's better.
Right. Yeah. It's like when you go to court. Don't speak unless somebody asks you a direct question, and then keep the answer short. As we get to the bottom of the hour here, any wishes you want to give for holidays or anything? Shout out to anybody in terms of happy holidays and things like that?
Yeah, I really just hope everyone has a great holiday. It's a special time of year. It's, I was never a huge Christmas guy. I'm more of a Thanksgiving guy. But once you have kids, it changes. You see how much they love it. And right now I got two older kids. Older, 13 and 11. I still got someone that's very much in the Santa phase, and watching them, give her that,
gift.
that gift is exciting. So, it's fun. It added a little bit new life to it again, and so, yeah, just hope everyone has a great holiday. Hope you have a great holiday.
Oh, thank you. I hope
you
so
too,
well.
Ben.
Yeah.
I thank you. Appreciate you guys very much.
Yeah, hopefully everybody has a wonderful holiday, and I will be back next week in the week between Christmas and New Year's, which I know most people just kind of check out of the world. I'll be back here, though. We'll be sitting down with another episode of Your Financial Puzzle Piece. But until then, everyone have a wonderful holiday, and we'll hopefully everybody be healthy and happy.